The deep dive. Today, we are tackling something really ambitious. We're looking at how you translate revolutionary philosophy into, well, actual reality.
And our source material isn't just theory, it's, boots on the ground stuff.
Yeah.
A working demonstration of a successful, thriving post-colonial system. It's happening right now in the Kenema district of Sierra Leone.
Right. A system they call a living flat metabolism, which sounds intense.
It is. It's guided by these really deeply practiced mechanisms. The architects, Benoit and Mariam Nini-Lapierre, they designed it to engineer a whole new reality, not just, complain about the old one.
And anyone who's dipped into this, even briefly, knows the language is something else. It's dense, abstract, honestly pretty intimidating at first glance.
Oh, absolutely. You see phrases like ontological engineering by wordplay neologism, flatness of etymological hybridization, and you think, okay, what does that mean?
Exactly. Is this just for academics?
It can feel that way. But that's kind of where we come in today. Our goal is to cut through that language, get past the intimidation factor.
And reveal the infrastructure underneath, the practical side.
Precisely. We want to show you, the listener, that it's not just abstract thought. It's a highly practical, functioning, and actually deeply moving system. The theory and the reality, there's essentially one thing here. Crafting a reality is like building a house, just as real.
Because that's what they're doing, fundamentally, building a new reality, a new metabolism. And any metabolism needs an operating system, right?
That's the perfect analogy. And that operating system, the blueprint for everything, politics, spirituality, economics, is what they call the double transverse transjective quadratic model, or AT for short.
AT, okay. The sources call it an empirical syntax for renewal. Syntax like grammar. How is a model like grammar for renewal?
Well, think about how syntax structures a sentence, right? It arranges the parts so they make sense together. This model structures the relationships between all the parts of their society.
Ah, okay. So not just rules, but the way language, ethics, building, even theology all connect and are forced to stay coherent?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coherent and in continuous repair.
Yeah.
If one part fails, say, a building technique doesn't work, then the language around it, the ethics tied to it, they have to adjust immediately.
So the language itself learns from reality. It's empirical. It proves itself by working, by holding up.
Yes, through successful maintenance, basically.
And this isn't just an idea floating around. It's physically anchored. There's a real place. The Kenema mansion, they call it the hyperorganon.
The hyperorganon, that's the heart of it, the crucible where KT is tested and lived. And it's way more than just a building.
Yeah.
Think of it as, well, a cathedral computer, an organism.
Built how?
Completely off-grid. And mostly from local laterite, that red, iron-rich earth you find there, that dust, that soil.
So the building material itself is local, grounded, part of the ideology almost.
Absolutely. The architecture is the physical nervous system for the theory. They say the walls literally breathe the community's theology. It's quite something.
And the most striking claim, I think, is that every single repair, every fix made to the structure, that's considered a chapter in an ongoing dissertation on social ethics.
Let's pause on that, yeah. A repair is a dissertation chapter. That tells you so much.
It means knowledge isn't just coming from books or lectures. It's decentralized. It's physical.
Right. If a roof beam cracks, the act of replacing it, the discussion about why it failed, where the new material comes from, the shared work, that whole process is generating vital knowledge, ethical knowledge, philosophical knowledge.
It completely changes the status of manual labor, doesn't it?
It totally revalues it. Manual labor becomes this interface where theology, technology, ecology, they all meet. They exchange breath, you could say. The physical and the theoretical, they're completely tangled up, holding each other accountable.
Okay. So the philosophical core driving this whole hyper-organon thing is ontological flatness. Let's dig into that. Section 1. The core architecture of BPT, starting with this flatness.
It all kicks off with what they call the ontological rupture. And it's this absolute, no-compromise refusal of verticality.
Not just class or money, then.
No, all of it.
Yeah.
Social hierarchy, gender, race, class, and this is crucial, theological hierarchy, too. Nothing and no one sits above the network. Not a person, not an idea, not even a god. Everything operates on the level.
And politically, it's rooted in African ways of knowing, right? They use the term no black.
Yes. And defining no black also means explicitly rejecting what they call think white.
Think white being European philosophical traditions.
Specifically, the tradition that often claims to be universally neutral, what they call all think. The Kenema project argues this claim of universal neutrality often just masks its own specific cultural viewpoint, its own biases. It's a kind of trick big.
So trick big is when Western thought claims this objective, placeless view, the nowherely, but it's actually just looking from Europe. Look Europe.
Exactly. The critique is that by claiming to be nowhere, it denies its own roots, its own assumptions. No black, on the other hand, is deliberately located. It grounds knowledge in the specific material reality of Africa, its culture, its ecology, its history. And it treats that as a rigorous theoretical system, not just, some historical artifact.
Which leads to the really radical break, Flatona theology. If there's no God up there, where does divine agency come from? How does it work?
It works horizontally, through levelanto or horizontal material circulation.
Meaning?
Meaning through the connections between people, kin.
Yeah.
Through the soil's fertility, through shared breath, through the actual work people do with their hands. Divinity becomes atmospheric, horgod, like oxygen, basically, pervasive.
Wow. Okay, that changes everything. Accountability becomes immediate, horizontal.
Totally. If the divine is in the circulation, then any breakdown in that circulation, a leaky roof, a broken promise, harming the environment, that's not just a social mistake. It's a failure in the divine metabolism itself.
Your theology is only as good as your relationships and your infrastructure. If your neighbor's hungry, your theology's failing. If the roof leaks, the covenant itself is leaking.
You got it. The spiritual integrity is measured by physical and social integrity.
Which makes a simple act like kneeling to dust really profound, doesn't it? It's not submission to something above.
Exactly. It flips the script. Kneeling is usually about looking up, right?
Yep.
Here, it's an epistemic act. It's recognizing our material reality. We are the earth. Dirt, truth.
We're material configurations of earth substances.
Right. So knowledge, morality, divinity, you find it by looking down, acknowledging our makeup, our material consequences, not by searching for abstract ideas up there.
It grounds everything in consequences. You can't theorize your way out of returning to dust, and the dust under your feet is the same stuff you use to build and eat.
And that flat reality is organized by this 8T model, the quadratic metabolism. You said it's a feedback loop, right? Self-feeding, rotating. It's dynamic. Not a static diagram, but a constant pulse.
And the force holding it all together is the transjective pulse. What's transjective doing that transverse isn't?
Okay, so transversality is about moving across layers, personal, communal, spiritual. Transjectivity is the force that actually fuses subject and object. It dissolves that separation.
Between the observer and the observed.
Yes. The basic unit isn't the individual person or the idea. It's the relationship itself, the covenantaxis. When you look at the community's health, you inherently realize your health is bound up in it. You're part of the metabolism you're observing.
Which leads to their research method, non-autoanthropology. You can't study kenema from the outside.
Right. This is their safeguard against basically colonial ways of knowing that demand objective distance, that kind of detached observer, forbidden. To understand the hyperorganon, you have to participate. You become part of the metabolism.
Observer equals observed equals metabolite.
Precisely. So if you're an outsider researching there, your notebook, it immediately becomes a ledger of repairs. Meaning, if you write down some brilliant theoretical insight, you have to balance the books, so to speak. You owe this system an equivalent physical contribution, sweat equity.
So your research has to actually help?
That's the rigor. It's not about getting citations back home. It's about whether your research activity actually eased stress in the system, helped heal something, they call it somaturgy, healing through body and structure. If your theory doesn't help fix that leaky pipe, it's considered incomplete, flawed even.
It's a brilliant way to keep intellectual hubris in check. Okay, let's break down the 4 axes that power this metabolism. Ultra, extra, meta, intra. How do they circulate? And importantly, how do they check each other with that transjective pulse?
Okay, first axis, ultra faith ignition. This is where conviction becomes technique. Faith isn't just belief, it's faith as ascent through endurance.
Ascent, but it's flat.
Good point. The ascent isn't upwards toward a sky god. It's the continuous climb of sustained effort, of staying true to the material covenant, enduring challenges together.
So truth isn't proven by logic alone, but by durability, by whether it works over time.
Exactly. If your belief system helps your community build a water system that lasts 10 rainy seasons, that belief system gets validated materially. Faith is a tool.
Makes sense. Okay, axis 2.
Extra. Civic reciprocity. The communal axis. Decisions here emerge through resonance, raison relay, not by decree or even majority vote.
Resonance, like a shared frequency. How does a whole community find a single rhythm for decisions? That sounds difficult.
It requires intense shared practice, deep listening. That's why meetings often start with drumming, remember. It literally tunes the group, emotionally and physically. A decision resonates when it feels right, when it aligns with the community's overall health and energy, their stamina.
So a proposal could be logically sound, but if it feels exhausting, if it doesn't have that stamina, it fails the resonance test.
Precisely. It has to harmonize.
Which leads to this interesting concept, Afro-covenantal panopticon benevolence. Panopticon usually sounds pretty scary, associated with control.
Right, but they flip it. Here, it's meant to be watch, sweet, collective, gentle observation focused on mutual care, guard love, everyone looking out for everyone else, basically.
But how do they stop that from becoming, suffocate constant surveillance, even if benevolent sounds like intense social pressure?
Yeah.
That's a real risk, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And that's where the checks and balances come in, the transjective pulse connecting the axis. The system requires enormous, constantly re-verified trust.
So how is Watch Sweet kept sweet? How do you prevent guard love from becoming coercive?
The safeguard is mainly in the other axis. Guard love must be demonstrably benevolent. If the watching leads to someone feeling excluded, shamed, or just constantly stressed, it violates the core covenant, the levelanto.
And the check comes from?
Primarily from the intra-axis, the body, which we'll get to. But basically, if someone feels coerced, their body registers that stress. And that stress becomes political data that has to be dealt with immediately. It stops Watch Sweet from turning into Watch Sour. Okay, that clicks. Physical feedback prevents social dissonance. Got it. Third axis, meta, reflective coherence. Theory, folding back into practice through praximnesia. Remembering while doing.
Right. The thinker can't just retreat into abstraction. Theory is constantly getting revised by what's happening on the ground. The philosopher has to sit with the mason, basically.
Let's use that transjective pulse idea again.
Yeah.
How does it check this meta-axis?
Okay, imagine a theorist, maybe still thinking a bit too much. I'll think comes up with a super intricate, mathematically perfect work schedule. It's pure meta-axis brilliance, right? But maybe it's totally unrealistic, too demanding.
The meta-axis is detaching from reality.
Exactly. The check comes from axis 4, intra-embodiment interoception. Cognition isn't just in the head, it's in the body.
So the theorist proposing the schedule
Has to actually do the work according to that schedule. And while they're doing it, they're monitoring their own fatigue, pulse, stress levels, but also the collective vibe, the sound, the rhythm of the community through what they call endo-breath, breathing within the house, tuning into the collective state. And they realize, whoa, this brilliant schedule is exhausting everyone. The collective fatigue becomes a political metric.
Yes. The rising pulse rate, the size, the dragging feet that's empirical data, it proves the meta-axis, the theory, is out of sync with the intra-axis, the lived body. The body's state is covenantal data.
A failing beam, a spike in aches and pains, a dip in the community's rhythm. That's not just a problem, it's a philosophical update. Requires praximnesia.
You remember the failure of the abstract idea because your own legs are aching?
This direct link between physical state and political health seems crucial to their decentralized governance, the rhizopolycentric principle.
It is. Authority spreads like roots. Rhizo seeking stability. Synaptic sovereignty. It flows like humidity, resting temporarily with whoever has the needed skill and is closest to the problem.
So power isn't about command, it's about the capacity to sustain relationships and get things done.
Right. If the hyperorganon roof leaks, the person who knows laterite mortar best takes the lead for that task. The theorist steps back. Competence and proximity determine temporary authority.
Which brings us naturally to the importance of the physical. Section 2. Handotheology, maintenance, and velocity.
Yeah, if the walls breathe theology, then the actual physical labor isn't just work, it's sacred. That's handotheology and sacramental anthropology.
Making things with your hands is a theological act.
Completely. Building, gardening, fixing things all sacred. It shatters that old academic split between thinking and doing. In kenema, the quick knowledge of ingredients, heat, nutrition, that's high-level intellectual work. Same status as the mathematicians.
And the tools themselves get elevated. The sources say a carpenter's hammer is theophany, godus.
Godus, God is in the tool, in the act. Using tools to transform materials is participating in ongoing creation, cosmogenesis, or make continue.
So human making continues divine making.
Yes, through joint forge. It requires collaboration, human, divine, material, tool, all working together to shape reality.
And this focus on making and fixing means maintenance becomes central. It actually replaces rebellion as the core myth of liberation.
That's a huge shift, isn't it? We usually think of liberation as this dramatic break, a revolution overthrowing the old. Here, the revolution is renovation, continuous upkeep.
Which they call eschatological maintenance. Utopia as upkeep.
It's a direct critique of that Western bias towards novelty, towards the founding genius, ignoring the crucial labor of sustaining things.
So utopia isn't some future dream state, it's the quality of the maintenance work we do right now.
Exactly. Eschatological maintenance means actively keeping things in good shape so future generations can experience pleasure, future joy. And it requires refusing to consume excessively now at their expense, steal future.
Our current global model often feels like it runs on steel future.
Precisely. And here, maintenance isn't just preserving the status quo. It's inherently creative. Keeping things working under changing conditions demands constant problem-solving regenerative maintenance or fix forward.
So repair isn't backtracking, it's advancing.
Right. Fixing that failed beam. That generates new knowledge about materials, loads, teamwork. You get smarter, more sophisticated through fixing, not just by building brand new things all the time.
And success isn't measured by GDP, but by the continuance audit. How gently things, buildings, relationships age.
Heaven arrives through durability. The end times are realized in things lasting, being serviceable. But this constant shared sacred work needs fuel. It needs energy. Which brings us to divine benevolence as velocity, or grace mechanics.
Okay, grace as physics, velocity.
Kind of. Kindness, cooperation, they're not just nice to have. They're framed as strategic imperatives for making the whole system run better, faster, metabolic optimization, or work better. It accelerates flourishing for everyone faster.
So being good to each other is actually efficient.
Highly efficient. The key idea is sweet speed, benevolent rapidity. Generosity, assuming goodwill in others' trustees, drastically cuts down on transaction costs. Cheap do.
That's fascinating. Think of all the resources we waste on verification, contracts, lawyers, security, all because we assume bad faith.
Exactly. Trustees aims to eliminate that drag. If your relationship, your standing in the covenant, is your real currency, you won't jeopardize it for small gain. Breaking trust is way costlier than any verification process, check no, to bear no.
This energy, this sweet speed, is fueled by joyful Afro-optimist-oriented accelerationism, JAOA.
JAOA, it's the system's engine. Acceleration, but guided by joy glad speed, not by stress or urgency or resource extraction. Joy itself is infrastructure.
How is joy infrastructure?
Because it optimizes coordination. Happy people working together, communicate better, make fewer mistakes, find solutions faster. They move with more energy.
So they actually track joy.
Yeah, the metric is the rate of joy change over time. DJDT0 is joy increasing. If the system slows down, if complaints rise and laughter fades, that's a critical signal. The covenantal velocity is dropping, intervention needed. Governance tunes itself to mood, rhythm, joy.
Wow. Okay, this high-trust, high-speed, joy-fueled system depends massively on clear communication. Which takes us to Section 3, the linguistic engine, verbokinetic flatness.
Absolutely crucial. The architects saw colonialism not just taking resources, but fundamentally messing with language itself, leaving people stuck thinking in imported categories that didn't fit their reality.
So they had to fix the language, too.
Yes, through reconstructive etymology. They call it epistemic reparation. Healing the damage by forging new, hybrid words neologisms that actually reflect and build their flat reality.
And this evolving language system is the hyperorganon in a way, a living nervous system for making sense of things.
Exactly, a field generating new language.
Yeah.
Linguistogenesis. The words don't just describe the new world, they actively construct it.
Through verb forging, creating words that do flatness, not just talk about it. Embedding the flat ontology right into the grammar flat force.
The idea is to make domination harder to even think thought block because the language doesn't easily support vertical concepts.
If the word for leader is inherently tied to servant or wealth to shared maintenance.
The language itself enforces the structure. And these words have to work. They're word tools. They have to perform real conceptual labor.
Let's look at the examples because they really show this fusion of theory and practice. First, genomorph.
Genomorph. To build thought as laterite. It collapses the abstract idea, the genesis, into the physical stuff of the earth. When you genomorph, you're thinking with the weight, the color, the limits and potentials of that local red dust.
So you can't just design any abstract thing. Your imagination is shaped by the material you actually have.
Precisely. Thought is grounded, literally, tied inescapably to the physical reality of kenema. It forces the meta-axis to stay connected to the intra-axis from the start.
Okay. Second word, kinetize. Converting colonial residue into usable energy. This sounds powerful.
It is. Kinetize is about transformation, taking the negative energy psychic baggage, leftover structures, even broken bricks from old colonial buildings, and channeling it into positive, collective, constructive action.
Semantic alchemy, like you said earlier, taking a symbol of pain, a piece of colonial pavement, and kinetizing it into the foundation of a community wall, turning hurt into strength.
And that process fuels the JAOA, the joyful accelerationism. It turns bitterness into progress.
Okay, third one, covenor. Speaking carries the weight of a communal promise.
When you covenor something, you're not just stating it. You're putting your entire standing within the community network on the line. Your word is your bond, but the bond is with the whole community.
If you break your word.
You don't just hurt one person, you damage the trust fabric of the entire system, the covenant taxis.
That sounds incredibly high pressure. How do they stop the whole thing from becoming rigid, dogmatic, or just exhausting under that constant pressure of meaning?
That's the genius of the system's safety valve, playlist soda.
Play philosophy sodality.
Exactly. Play, philosophy, and fellowship all rolled into one. It's a ludic epistemology. It refuses to separate serious knowing from playfulness.
So play soda acts as the civic stabilizer. It lets off steam.
It does more than that. It converts critique into rhythm, disagreement into collaborative design. Laughter becomes a kind of pneumatic safety valve when discussions get too heated.
Can you give an example of how it works?
Sure. Imagine a tense meeting about water rationing in the dry season. People are getting frustrated, the meta-axis is struggling.
The fancy genomorphing language isn't cutting it.
Right. Then maybe a child, just playing nearby with leftover food containers from the meal, arranges them into a map of the village and points out, playfully, how the current distribution seems to favor the houses up the hill. They've created a hearth map using the meal layout as social cartography.
And because play is respected as a valid way of knowing.
The tension breaks. People laugh, gather around, look at the child's map. The playful observation is seen as a precise analytical insight. It proves that the freedom of play, these whimsical combinations, can generate solutions that tense, systematic debate might miss.
The goal shifts from winning the argument to solving the problem together through fellowship.
Exactly. Crisis becomes a design project fueled by sodality. It stops the system from ossifying.
Okay, so they have these powerful word tools born from serious forging and playful discovery, but they reject external validation like academic peer review. How do they know these concepts are actually working? How do they verify truth?
Through kinemetric verification, the triple lock of truth. Their standard is covenantal empiricism. Truth isn't abstract. It's proven by its ability to organize successful action, successful life across multiple dimensions. Many proof.
It has to work, sustain relationships, and last.
Right. And they test this with empirical triangulation, checking against 3 axes of endurance. First, endurance, pure physical survival.
Does the word or concept hold up under real-world stress?
Yeah. Can you use the word when you're tired, hot, doing hard labor? Does it sing? If a new term for a farming technique is too awkward to chant while working, it fails. It has to work under physical duress.
Second axis, attestation, social.
Yeah.
Does it resonate socially?
Does the community recognize itself in the word? Does it bridge gaps between different local groups, Mandé speakers, Creole speakers, English speakers? A true word tool has to unite, not divide. It must be accessible, reinforce the flatness.
And third, resonance, spiritual. Does it hold up in solitude?
Does the word hum with faith? Can it sustain hope when you're alone, tired, maybe feeling doubtful at dusk? If a word doesn't offer that kind of quiet personal strength, it fails the test of spiritual durability.
Physically useful, socially inclusive, and spiritually sustaining, that's a serious triple lock. Only the really robust, context-specific ideas make it through.
And this rigorous verification feeds directly into their governance, which brings us to Section 4, Governance, Education, and Economy in the Flat Horizon.
Based on praxeocracy and synaptic sovereignty, governance by doing.
Right. Legitimacy comes from praxitectonic, the actual practical ethical work someone puts in, and the real-world results, not from speeches or titles.
Authority derived from competence and ethical action. If a policy forces dishonest or exhausting labor, it's unethical, end of story. Even if it looked good on paper.
It has to pass the praxitectonic audit. And this reinforces that rhizopolycentric principle. Authority is decentralized synaptic sovereignty. It flows.
Like humidity, you said, resting with whoever's best equipped for the task at hand. Power is about sustaining relationships and getting things done, not commanding.
And this fluid, task-based authority leads to pneumatics politics. Governance as the movement of spirit pneuma through the community's lungs.
Collective breath determining political health.
Yeah. Meetings start with drumming, not memoranda, remember. To align the emotional phase first. The collective endo-breathe signals readiness. Decisions need to be rooted in that shared physical and spiritual state, not just intellectual agreement.
This must completely reshape education, too. If praxis is king, learning has to be hands-on. Radical unschooling and embodied intellect.
Exactly. Education's edomorphosis shaping itself organically. It fuses with craft apprenticeship, scriptonomy. Learning is driven by joy pedagogy. The classroom is the workshop, the garden, the construction site.
The textbook is replaced by the curriculum of dust. Learning from termites rebuilding a beam, studying their algorithm of devotion.
That's a perfect example. Observing their collaboration, their structural logic, their repair instinct. That is the curriculum.
And it starts incredibly early. Gestational pedagogy, learning in the womb.
Through the rhythms of construction, communal singing. Calibrating the fetus to the sounds and pulses of community life, preparing them for pneumatics politics from before birth.
And once born, children are coexographers, active researchers.
Yes. Learning math by mixing cement. Practicing kin critique, learning to identify problems in structures or relationships, but framing it as shared problem solving, not blame. Critiquing with kinship, not against it.
The goal isn't just literacy, but covenantal attention, seeing the feedback loops in the everyday world.
Precisely. Perceiving the flatant theology in action.
And this whole life is supported by their economy, Bracenomics and the Aeon economy, a Eucharistic model where value comes from maintenance, not just production.
Value is rooted in contribution, in keeping the whole system healthy and joyful. Wealth isn't measured in money or stuff, but in things like laughter per day, non-extractive metrics.
And the internal currency is restaurants, units of restoration, backed not by gold, but by verifiable benevolence, senti work.
Senti work. Actions that demonstrably restore the community's metabolism. Shared labor, emotional support, fixing things. How's it verified? By the Dokti coherence. Did the action increase joy? DJDT0. Did it contribute to continuance?
It's a currency policed by its own principles, and the check against greed. Inflation equals pride, triggering automatic fasting.
That's the safeguard. Pride is the ultimate enemy of flatness, of levelanto. If individuals start hoarding restaurants, seeking status, it signals a dangerous tilt towards verticality. Inflation means pride is creeping in.
So the system forces a correction, fasting periods.
To restore humility, recenter on essentials, increase shared, unrewarded work, re-anchor everyone in dirt truth. The economic fix is a spiritual and social recalibration.
And exchange itself is policed by language through covenantal exchange.
Yes. Using the verb attestate. When you sell something, you don't just give a warranty, you attestate its quality. You stake your entire community standing on its durability.
Wow. And neosoma pricing by conscience, not market demand.
The price reflects ethical labor, community well-being, not just what you can get away with charging.
It's an economy measured in care and joy, and the ultimate safety net. The Leviathan of care. Leviathan usually means a huge state.
But here, it's an emergency commons fund,
Yeah.
used only in times of deep crisis famine, moral fatigue, and crucially, when it's invoked.
Authority dissolves back to synaptic sovereignty.
Exactly. Formal structures pause. Taxation stops. The system recognizes that in extreme crisis, immediate compassionate task-based response trumps procedure. It ensures care without chaos, defaulting to competence and guard love.
An economy that pauses itself for empathy. Incredible. Okay, final section, section 5. The Prometatopian trajectory and the AI challenge. This all culminates in Prometatopia, the now triumph.
Prometopia, it's their alternative to waiting for some future utopia or trying to escape the body, escape flesh. It's about the value of ever-present repair, the imminent eschaton.
The end times are already here, but realized through ethical work, through maintenance.
Right. The revolution is renovation. Salvation is an escape. It's immersalvation, getting deeper into material practice, soteripraxis. Repair is redemption. The most meaningful state is skillful, continuous engagement with the world as it is.
Measured by that continuance audit, how well things last, how gently they age, eschatology enacted daily.
Heaven arrives through durability.
But this unique, deeply rooted reality has to interact with the outside digital world. They face algorithmic illegibility.
A huge challenge for any truly novel system today. Their concepts kinetize, flat force, playlist soda. They're invisible to AI trained on standard Western capitalist vertical data. Kenema's reality risks being rendered invisible online.
Their unique vocabulary, the ET syntax, just doesn't register with existing algorithms. How do they engage without being erased or compromised?
Their strategy is verbocinetic insurgency, actively engineering the digital world to recognize their concepts on their own terms. They have to teach the machines kenema, often by strategically using the machine's own language.
A kind of digital counterinfiltration. How? Tactic 1. Contextual redundancy.
Loading every neologism with tons of explanatory data, often using technical terms the AI does understand. So BreathNet, communal breathing, gets tagged with things like real-time sociometric respiratory coordination protocols or biosocial atmospheric covenant.
Creating deep semantic anchors using the enemy's vocabulary to give their concepts digital traction.
Exactly. Tactic 2, categorical bridging, systematically linking their concepts to existing, computationally understandable categories.
So mapping fleshes a polycentric principle to non-hierarchical adaptive governance model in the metadata, or Gracenomics to restorative resource distribution network.
Right. It creates pathways for the AI to index the ideas without losing the core meaning. It's like giving the AI a temporary dictionary.
And tactic 3, iterative repetition.
Slow, steady, persistent seeding of their terms and concepts across the digital landscape forums, technical papers, architectural databases, everywhere, saturating the system.
Coercing the algorithm through sheer persistence to recognize and eventually even anticipate kenema syntax, digital faith as assent.
It's a digital durability contest, making the alien familiar through relentless distributed presence.
And this effort to teach the machine actually opens up a role for AI within the hyperorganon, AI as technological friend or Gnostic machine.
Yes, instead of a controller, AI serves the covenant. It acts as a resonance auditor, performing algorithmic empathy, monitoring humidity, sound patterns, the ratio of laughter to distress size, work rhythms.
The ultimate check on systemic health, providing real-time feedback on the collective state, the joy metric.
Exactly. If the AI detects a slip in the DJGT based on sound analysis, that data feeds straight back into the pneumatics politics.
And personally,
AI units serve as Gnostic machines, hyper-contextual guides for self-reflection, helping people navigate things like praxamnesia or practicing kin critique constructively.
but the data is kept private in an auto-sacralization vault.
Crucially, yes, inaccessible to governance. The AI is for self-knowledge and covenant service, absolutely not for surveillance or control. It's an unbiased mirror for reflection.
Technology used to deepen engagement with material reality, not escape it. Wow.
It serves the flat ontology.
This has been quite the immersion, a truly realized post-colonial modernity. The AT model braids together anthropology, theology, architecture, language, economics. It's all one integrated practice.
It's a profound synthesis, isn't it? Kenema spiritualizes infrastructure. Shared labor, embodied knowledge, they show resilience is possible without top-down authority.
And the core lesson feels so relevant right now, that distilled idea. Joy is infrastructure, care is science, hope is maintenance.
Beautifully put. And their success isn't magic, it's method. Procedural radicalism, method power. It's replicable because it's rigorous.
It's transferable, defined by that final formula. Faith, X, community, X, reflection, X, embodiment, divided by hubris minus humility yields continuance.
And when humility is high, the system finds stability. Eternity isn't static, it's stable oscillation. Theory finds its completion in tenderness and the fidelity of that shared breath.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a final thought. The kenema hyperorganon shows the most revolutionary state is actually continuous, skillful maintenance. So the question is, what structures in your own life, your relationships, your home, your habits, require that kind of continuous, loving maintenance today to realize your own permatopian now?